Hello everyone, it's Brenton from It's a Hockey Night, and I'm just answering a fan question. Questions from Daniel Thompson. If you want to write into the show, we either answer questions on the YouTube channel if I think it's a good YouTube video, otherwise we answer it on the podcast. They can be goofy, they can be wild, or they can be hockey related. And yeah, we answer them, because, what else are we going to do with them? Otherwise they'll just sit there in the ether. I'm stalling. So Daniel Thompson asks, pretty much, there's the tweet there, but it's pretty much like with all the positive tests that have just happened in the last few days, do I think that the playoffs will even get started? There's so much to unpack here. Like with those 11 positive tests, and most of the sporting world dealing with the positive tests. I think UFC, a fighter from 3 weeks ago, tested positive. Baseball, they're in a mass shambles, but there was a few players that tested positive. There's not really a good answer here, like 100% answer of how to fix this, unless you sort of send them to an island that just doesn't have COVID, or they can play on the moon or something. He'll still find a way to get up there. It'll be some idiot without a face mask, just like, the carbon dioxide hurts me. So really, your best bet to at least attempt to have a playoffs, which I think they probably will do and should do economically. The economic part is very different to like what I think should happen, but I understand that there's a lot of money on the table and there's a lot of jobs on the line, so I understand them wanting to at least do something. And I'm now, after watching AFL come back, which is the football in Australia, I'm starting to change my mind on what that playoff series would be, because I used to think it would be a massive asterisk, but now I'm thinking it's kind of impressive if you win. The one thing that we've seen in AFL is that like 1 week a team shows up and then the next week they really don't, and just no one really has the answer of how to deal with this right now, of training in very different circumstances. In AFL you can only train in small groups, and those small groups have contact, but you can't train as a team as a whole, so like how a team kind of adjusts to that is huge. But I think the answer is don't, and I said this on the podcast, I think about 3 weeks ago, the worst thing you could do is have a border. Have a country border between these places. So either put 2 in the States or 2 in Canada, but do not mix it up. I don't even get why you need 2 hub cities. If you can, try get 1 if there's enough rinks around that can handle this. A very small upgrade can kind of get a workable rink that an NHL standard, because they don't need all the arena. They don't need the arena capacity. They just need it to work. So I think Vancouver would be a good idea. Toronto's another one that comes to mind. If you go in Canada, I just don't. You look at the numbers in America right now, and whether you want to bash me in the comments for this comment, but that like those numbers are 100% wrong. Like I think it's a lot worse than it's being let on, even though it is quite bad. Like I think in Florida, like pneumonia deaths have gone up like by 500%, and you're like, well, clearly that's COVID. Like pneumonia's just not all of a sudden around. Like it's those things that you just start to think about, that things don't line up and things aren't making sense. You can't say, oh, there's a second wave coming, when like every day there was still 15,000 positive cases. I would say America still hasn't dealt with its first wave properly, and so that would firmly, for me, say Canada's the way to go. There's a lot more Canadian players that play the game too, so I feel like it's easier from a PA standpoint to vote on it, that it's easier for them to stay in their country. I think travel restrictions wise, it might be a bit easier just to get, people from like Finland and Sweden into the country, but I obviously don't know that whole schematics. It's very hard to research outside of your own country what the travel bans are, so if anyone can shed some light in the comments, that'll be great. But yeah, everyone's saying 2 Canadian hub cities. I would try even get it to 1, or have them very close to each other, because at the end of it, like 1 team from that hub city needs to play another team from the hub city. Just right now the AFL, I'm sorry if I keep mentioning the AFL, it's just the only sporting league right now that's kind of, open for business, that is dealing with this right now. So it's a great case study of like what's happening here. They had a positive test last Friday that suspended one of the games for playing on Sunday. However, it came back Wednesday that was a false positive. So technically, or at least it looks like, he didn't have it at all. So we went through this whole rigmarole that like there could be a few defenders out, or it ended up being 2, but now are they all allowed to go back? What sort of testing needs to be done? And the reason why they thought he got it is that he went to a bunch of house opens and then with his wife, and then went to a family shindig. So that's the thing. You're going to be dealing with a bunch of these young people that one of them is going to break the rules. And if you have them in close-knit areas where these training camps are the whole team and not just a few people, like, you know, maybe a line and a defensive line sort of getting together. If it's a whole team, it can spread through a whole team. And then what do you do then? What do you do then if just before the playoffs everyone gets it in a team, or 10 people? Because if enough people have it, then the whole team needs to go into isolation. So what happens then? So that's the whole thing, and we're looking at teams like, again, sorry to go to AFL, but there's so much samples that you can take from it. The West Coast, or both the Perth teams right now, have to be in Brisbane because of the current restrictions in Western Australia. The border is not open at all. So they're just in Brisbane at the moment, and they're miserable because they can't see their family, they can't do anything outside of be at their hotel, and then that's it. And they are really struggling. This was a team, by the way, that made the grand final last year. The equivalent of the Super Bowl. They were in that last year, and they just signed a star midfielder, and it just looked like they were going to be up and up. Like, it was almost like they were favourites to win this year, and they got beaten by who came last year, by a significant margin. So it's very interesting. I do think, Daniel, there will be a season. But the dumbest thing you could do is put any borders in that. You just don't know what cluster is going to break out. You don't know what's going to do what. And I think the NHL would be paramount to do as much as they can to stop the temptation of players going out. So whether that be that they just hire out a few restaurants for a couple of months and alternate who goes to what, I think that could work. But I think you should minimize how much time they all spend time together as a team. If a line's out, but you can't take out a whole team midway of the playoffs. It's been stopped before the Stanley Cup because of illness back in 1919 with the Spanish flu, so it's not unprecedented. But yeah, I just think, like, you don't want to. The worst thing you could do is you couldn't even get past the play-in rounds because, you know, a couple of teams got this. So yeah, fewer borders, fewer complications. There's so much up in the air. There's even just some weird thing could happen that, like, some hotel worker gives one of these players it, and then it just skittles through like the mumps, you know, back in the day, through the locker rooms of some teams. That's all it needs to derail this. So as little borders, as little things as you can put in place that can cause an issue. You don't want people getting on planes. You don't want people traveling very far. You don't want any of that. You just don't, because you don't know what it's going to be like. I mean, America could end up being a basket case, and Canada could once again shut the border and just say, look, you know, we can't let anyone in America in. And I know it doesn't look like that right now, but you don't know what it's going to be like. And vice versa. Canada, you know, could slip up, reopen, and, you know, it just takes off like wildfire, and then America stops that going in. And, you know, America's going to give two hoots about whether, you know, the NHL season should restart or not. So, yeah, I know Vegas is the favorite, but I'll stick it in 2 Canadian cities. 1, if you can get away with it, but 2, ideally, and just really do your best to understand that this is like a human level. You can't cage these people up. It will affect them, and yeah, just go with that. It's a bit of luck here, but you know someone's going to get it. That's just the reality. Someone is going to get this between when training camps open and the season starts. And everyone still needs to vote on it too. So I just feel like Canada would get the win on that vote. I could be wrong. I'm not in all these rooms. But yeah. Anyway, guys, if you did like this video, hit the like button. Otherwise, hit subscribe. What do you think down below? Do you think the season will start? Do you think it won't? I secretly think Daniel wrote in this question because he's a Buffalo Sabres fan. He's a little bit salty because Botterill got fired and they've done nothing for 9 years. Yeah, but anyway, thanks for the question. If you do want to write in, it's at Hockey Night Pod on Twitter or iahnpodcast@gmail.com, or put a question below. And yeah, I'll either read it out in the podcast, or if I find it's a good video, it's a good video. But thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button because that really does help us out. We're slowly moving up there. We're slowly moving out, and the like button also, helps out with the algorithm thing. I don't know how that all works, but smash that like button. Thanks, guys. See you. Bye.